Welcome to Malice and Mystery, where the darkness speaks. Enter a world of chilling tales, eerie mysteries, and spine-tingling horror. From real-life paranormal encounters to unsolved mysteries and terrifying urban legends, we bring you the darkest stories from the shadows. Subscribe if you dare, and remember, some mysteries are better left unsolved. The dark web horror stories you should never hear. Welcome, listeners, to the dark web horror stories you should never hear. I'm your host, Nay, and tonight we're diving into the shadowy corners of the internet, places where the light doesn't reach, and where the darkest secrets of humanity are hidden. The dark web is a place of anonymity, a place where the rules of the surface world don't apply. But be warned, some stories are better left untold. What you're about to hear may haunt you long after this episode ends. Story 1. The Red Room. Our first story comes from a user who goes by the name Shadow Surfer. Shadow Surfer claims to have been a curious explorer of the dark web, someone who thought they could handle whatever they found. But one night, they stumbled upon something that changed everything. Shadow Surfer. Shadow Surfer. I was deep into the dark web, past the usual drug markets and counterfeit goods. I found a link to something called the Red Room. The description was vague, just a single line. "Come watch the show." I clicked it, and that's when things got strange. Shadow Surfer. The screen loaded into a live video feed. It was a dimly lit room with red walls and a single chair in the center. A man in a mask appeared, holding a knife, started talking to the chat, asking for requests. At first, I thought it was some kind of sick joke. But then he brought out a person, a real person. They were tied up, gagged, and terrified. Shadow Surfer. The chat went wild. People were typing in commands, telling him what to do, and he listened. I couldn't look away. I wanted to close the tab, but my hand wouldn't move. It was like I was paralyzed. The man in the mask, he started cutting. The screams, I'll never forget the screams. Shadow Surfer. I finally managed to close the browser, but it was too late. The next day, I started getting messages. Someone knew I had been there. They sent me pictures of my house, my family. They said I was part of it now. I tried to report it, but the authorities couldn't trace anything. The dark web doesn't give up its secrets easily. Shadow Surfer's story ends there. They claim to have abandoned the dark web entirely, but they still live in fear, wondering if the man in the mask is still watching. Story 2. The Game of Pain. Our next story comes from an anonymous source who we'll call Playerx. Playerx was drawn into something far more sinister than they could have imagined. The game that promised riches but delivered only horror. Player X. I found it on a forum, a link to a game called the Pain Lottery. The rules were simple. Complete a series of challenges and you could win a life-changing amount of Bitcoin. The first few tasks were easy: upload a photo, share personal information. But then things escalated. Player X. The next challenge was to hurt myself. Just a small cut, they said. I did it. I told myself it was just a game. But then they asked for more. They wanted me to hurt someone else. I refused, but they threatened to release all the information I had given them: my address, my family's details. I was trapped. Player X. Player X, I don't want to talk about what happened next. Let's just say I lost a part of myself that day. And the worst part? There was no prize, no Bitcoin. It's just a message that said you were never going to win. This was never about the money. Player X's story is a chilling reminder that the dark web is a place where the rules of morality don't apply. It's a playground for the wicked, and the price of admission is often far too high. Story 3. The Silent Auction. Our final story tonight comes from a user named Echo. Echo's tale is perhaps the most disturbing of all: a story of greed, curiosity, and the ultimate price of both. Echo? I was browsing the dark web looking for something, anything, to satisfy my curiosity. That's when I found it a site called the Silent Auction. The items up for bid were unusual. Personal belongings, rare artifacts, and then I saw it. A listing for one night with a stranger. The description was vague, but the bidding was fierce. I didn't think much of it at first. I thought it was some kind of role-playing thing, but then I won. The next day, a package arrived at my door. Inside was a key and an address. I told myself I wouldn't go, but curiosity got the better of me. Echo. The address led me to an abandoned house. I used the key to unlock the door, and inside I found a person. They were tied up, gagged, and terrified. I realized then what I had done. I had bought a human being. I tried to leave, but the door was locked. The lights went out, and I heard a voice. It said, "You wanted a night with a stranger. Now you'll never leave, Echo." I don't know how I got out. I woke up in my bed, covered in bruises, with no memory of what happened. But I know one thing, I'm never going back to the dark web. Some doors should never be opened. These stories are just a glimpse into the horrors that lurk beneath the surface of the internet. The dark web is a place where the worst of humanity thrives, and where curiosity can lead to unspeakable consequences. Remember, some stories are better left unheard. Stay safe and stay out of the shadows. Until next time, this is Malice and Mystery, signing off. Sleep well if you can.